So I go in there and I Google it and I start learning things like culturally, shake the man's hand, do not shake the wife's hand. You can't do that. It's disrespectful. He, as a rabbi, might have actually physically stopped me from shaking her hand. So I was like, okay, her touching another man in that faith is disrespectful. So I'm not even going to put her in that position. So the other things that I Googled, I'm like, okay, let's look up kosher house. So I learned that you got to have 2 dishwashers, 2 sinks, 2 refrigerators, because meat and dairy can never meet. I'm like, oh, that's good to know. How many homes out there have 2 separate kitchens, so to speak? I found 6 of them. The other thing I learned is they can't drive on the Sabbath. So I figured, you know what? It'd be really smart if I picked out homes that were within walking distance so they could walk to it on the Sabbath and not have to drive. But how would I know that if I didn't have the commitment to find out? Right. Because again, I want to wow this guy. I want him to think, wow, this is the greatest agent ever. So I look all this stuff up. I meet him up.
And that's because you're anticipating their feelings again.
Proactive instead of reactive. Yeah. I'm very military in my thinking. You never go on to the field of battle without battle plans Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, because Alpha is going to go to shit right off the bat.
Right.
So planning it out. When I met him, did the Gucci water thing, because obviously water's kosher. We're good. He got a kick out of that. I shook his hand. I put my hands behind my back, and I greeted his wife very warmly. He caught that. He says, how come you didn't try to shake my wife's hand? I said, well, in the Orthodox Jewish faith, that would be very disrespectful to touch your wife. And he was like, very good, young man. I mean, right off the bat, I made a huge impression with just one tiny little thing. I said, well, it gets better. I've got 6 homes lined up for us today. Each one of them has 2 sinks, 2 dishwashers, 2 refrigerators. And all of them have hard surfaces so that when you move in, you can kosherize the home on day 1. You're good to go. Also, every single one of them is within walking distance of a shoal, because I know you can't be driving on the Sabbath. His brain goes, oh. He says, I can't even begin to tell you how hired you are. Really? I've had to educate realtors. I'm in the military. We bought and sold tons of houses. Nobody's ever showed up this prepared. Color me impressed. It's like, great. That's exactly what I was going for.
The answer to the new buyer compensation agreements, I guess, huh?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's business as usual. I was doing all this stuff anyway.
Sure.
So, imagine me now having to say, okay, in order for me to show you homes, I just need you to sign this. I've already built enough value now. I'm hired. Done. It's a non-issue. So, fast forwarding, he buys the 3rd house, which is always weird. 80% of the time it's the 3rd house. I can't tell you why. But he buys his 3rd house. The guy's over the moon. I got him a spectacular deal on it. All his closing costs covered. VA, easy squeezy. He actually got his earnest money back at closing, which blew his mind again, because I try to engineer that whenever I can. And here we are. And he invites me and my wife over for dinner. Of course, I accept that invitation. And what happens? I sit there and I say, Rabbi, let me just ask you, did I do a good job for you? He says, oh, young man, I bought and sold so many homes in the military over my career. I got to tell you, this is by far the best experience I've ever had. I mean, it just seems like you were always 2 steps ahead of me the whole way. And that thing you did with the inspection, that was brilliant. My wife got such a kick out of that.
Yeah.
But so many examples of what I do along the way, but that's just the one. But at the end of that, I said, okay, well, I need something in return. He says, name it. I said, I need a referral. Who do you know looking to buy or sell homes in Texas? He says, well, my brother-in-law wants to buy a couple of investment homes. Now, that's what I heard. That's what I was told. I called the brother-in-law and said, hey, I just helped Rabbi Stern buy his new property over here. He said I needed to give you a call. You were looking for investment properties. He goes, oh, no. I got a way bigger problem than that. I've got a huge tax problem, and the way we're going to solve it is I need to buy a bunch of residential rentals, and I'm going to depreciate the first 7 year of all of those, and I haven't been able to find a broker that can give me enough of them. I said, okay, well, what are you talking about here? He says, I need to spend $150 million by June.